Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Self Love Sundays. It's such a pleasure to be here and an honor to be sharing this space with you. My name is Geraldine Orozco. For those of you that don't know me, I'm an epigenetic psychotherapist and I am an intuitive. And the primary focus of my work is to train and help support you in your ascension with practical embodiment and hopefully really clear concepts to help you understand how to ascend, integrate yourself, integrate your fractals and your fragmentation that you've experienced throughout your life as you have incarnated, chosen to incarnate into this matrix. And essentially, what does that entail and how to transform? And of course, the alchemy of life, which is exactly what we're talking about in this series today. We are currently in a 30-day challenge of integrating death and rebirth. I think this is a super, super relevant and important topic. And we are on day 9. And today we're going to talk about allowing death, the process of letting go, particularly the old self and everything that entails. And essentially, in this part of the course, what we're talking about essentially is, you know, uh, when we deal with death, whether it's the death of a loved one or death of something that we have attached to or connected to, we actually create an entire identity around these parts of us. We create an entire lives. Let's say a partner passes away or a family member passes away or somebody very close to us. We have an entire parts of us that are created in order to support the dynamic and the reciprocal relationship between the other. And what we're talking about here is that the identities and everything that's created to create this identity really truly gets affected when there is this death of the other or loss of the other or leaving of the other. And so what happens is that these awaken in us and highlight in us any attachments that we've had, any identities, any emotional codependency, interdependencies, all of these elements of the human interacting with another become very, very aware. They come to the surface, especially when we experience that loss. And so what happens is that not only does the other we have to accept the death of the other, but we also have to accept deaths of parts of ourselves. Okay. And so this is extremely difficult for the human. And actually it's one of the reasons that the majority of why it's difficult for us to accept death and accept the departure or letting go of someone, because we have been taught in our society that our relationships, I hope you guys can hear me okay, that the way that we connect with ourselves, our identities, our personalities are necessary for survival, right? And so we have been also taught to be pushed into the illusion of independence, but yet um, not really receiving the right understanding of what that means exactly, right? We push this extreme independence for each individual, but in reality, we don't have any support in our society to show us what it means, because there's no such thing as independence. We are deeply interdependent. We are, and what ends up happening, the toxic side of that independence, that false independence, becomes codependency. And this is deep, deep subconsciously, we become codependent of these things, people, places, and things. And we are completely unconscious about these codependent interactions that we build within ourselves. And so death becomes extremely difficult, because when we lose that, we don't know, we find ourselves facing parts of us that are yearning for those biochemical triggers that we were used to from the other. And when we don't receive that biochemical response from the other, which triggered those emotions within us, we starve. We starve ourselves biochemically, emotionally, of course. And then parts of us have to readjust our balance. And so one of the reasons why death becomes extremely difficult is because of these attachments that we create, and particularly the identities that are attached to those attachments within ourselves. And unfortunately, when we are raised with a lot of trauma, with a lot of, not having that nurturing and that protection from the parent, from the mother and the father, what ends up happening is that we really deeply have a loss of self, the true self, right? And we grow up in survival mechanisms, creating personalities, wearing masks in order to be able to manage these interactions and these relationships with the other. So this really, really creates a big problem with us because we don't know who we are since the very beginning. Since the womb until the age of 7, we're already receiving ideas and concepts that we adopted from our parents, right? And there isn't really much support in our society, in our relationships, in our education as a whole, to build this deep understanding with ourselves, this connection with our emotions, with our true feelings, with our authenticity, really is what it comes down to. So being authentic becomes really dangerous and very feeling extremely fragile and vulnerable. But in reality, with the loss of that deep connection to our true authenticity, we actually become even more fragile. Okay, because when these crutches, these emotional crutches to ideas, identities, personalities, people, places, and things that we've created no longer exist, we find ourselves at such a severe loss for ourselves and our energy, as you know, being that centrifugal spin, because we have depleted our life force. We have cultivated lifetimes of making another the source of our stability. Okay, and that stability doesn't mean that you're stable. It means that you have created some sort of comfort within what is known to you. Okay, so that can mean that you are really used to trauma and used to abuse since a very early age. But even when that loss happens with the abuser, we feel a loss. We feel lost. We don't know ourselves because we are so deeply become comfortable and familiar with that interaction, even if it was toxic, that it feels deeply difficult for us to transcend that. So let's talk about that and let's take a look at how we can get past that and alchemize this process for higher integration. Okay, so I'm going to share this. Hello everyone, so great to see you guys here. I'm going to go ahead and share this live. Please do feel free to share this if you feel that it has some value. And how's everybody doing today? All right, and let me go ahead and get this information. Excellent. Okay, and yeah, just want to say hi to everybody that's in the chat. It's so wonderful to see you guys here. Hello, Angie, Angelina, Jay Zen, Linda, Pono, Jay Zen, Transcendence. Yes, Lisa Davy. Hello, Geraldine. Hello, lovely, brave souls. Thank you for showing up in this workshop. Death, as important as life, what beautiful is nothing else dies. It transforms like we are transforming beyond 3D. That's right, Lisa. That is right. Going nowhere says so true. Yes. It's about giving to the self as we are all one. Yes, one in many. Kevin says, is there a sign up for this 30-day challenge or just showing up here at a certain time every day? Yeah, so thank you so much, Kevin, for tuning into that. It's really hard for me to do one time every day, but because my schedule is so crazy. But I will try to make it in the evening time every night in the weekdays. And then, of course, we have Self-Love Sundays. I will not be doing lives on Saturdays because I'm usually traveling or doing a conference somewhere. And so we will do it in the evening times during the weekdays, Monday through Friday. And then Sunday, we'll meet here for Self-Love Sunday, which is 12:30 to 1:30. There is a sign up for this, which is allowing you to connect to additional material the slides of every presentation that I make is also available for you. And you can find that on my website under programs, courses and programs. And this is called 30 Days of Integrating Death and Rebirth. So there's a place for you to ask questions, interact with me, and catch the slides and the replays of this. So you have unlimited access, lifetime access, all in one place for you, so that you can access this information. Okay. Going Nowhere says, how did you gain all this wisdom? You are so spot on. Yeah, Going Nowhere. So everything that I'm talking to you about here are things that I have experienced personally, and in my own process of meditation and self internally created a program of deprogramming, a process of deprogramming called DNA deprogramming. And I found that through that process, uncovering many, many layers of the subconscious mind and healing my own internal ancestral trauma, going into past lives, integrating interdimensional aspects of myself, and therefore can provide this insight from the inside out, so that you can understand what you're going to encounter in your navigation. And of course, even though my journey is going to be very different to yours, there is a certain architecture, and I really try to speak to that general architecture so that you can understand that when you do enter into these realms in your meditation, you understand what you're going to see, what you're looking at, and what you're looking for, how to find it. And the purpose is to make this work more supportive, fluid, easy for you, and easy to understand. I talk about these things because in my early journey, I didn't feel like I had a guide that could really take me to these places, and it was like walking in the dark. So that's why I'm really passionate about talking about these processes and how we get there. And of course, dealing with death in my own life many times, not only my own personal near-death experience, but that of my partner and also other friends. But all of these experiences help you understand how to navigate life and death, and understanding that we're essentially experiencing life and death every moment. And this is what it comes down to. Okay, so let me go ahead and open up this presentation. Let's see if I can maybe deepen this understanding for you. Okay, so let's talk about when we are embodying, the process of letting go of the old self. Okay, so first of all, we have to remember we are an interdependent system. Okay, so we are an interdependent organism, and everything in our lives, essentially, we are intercommunicating with. Mind, body, and soul we are communicating with. Okay, we come into the incarnation of the physical body as a result of all of the choices and everything that our ancestors have done. We are the descendants of those informations. Okay, so this is really important to understand. First of all, give me just 1 second so I can extend my screen, and I can connect with you guys because I can't see you guys. Hold on, just one tiny little second. Need an HDMI cord. Yeah, so essentially all of these ideas that we are, as soon as we incarnate into the physical body, we are connecting to a greater database of information. Okay, because we are manifested, we come into manifestation as a direct result of all the choices of our ancestors, which have called forth the manifestation of your essence. So in other words, you exist not just randomly. You are not just a creation that is an extra creation in this world. You are really very much precisely designed, energetically, and your soul was created to incarnate at this time and to experience this timeline as consciously as possible so that you can understand the meaning and the significance of your incarnation. And what that means is that there's a responsibility behind that, just the way our ancestors were responsible, in a sense, for calling forth our soul into the incarnation. Every choice that we make is is choosing timelines, not just for us individually, but also collectively. Okay, so that's a really big deal. If you understand that, if you understand that every one of your choices is actually participating in the co-creation of the collective, then the meaning of your life and the meaning and the weight of your choices and decisions that you make actually are pretty heavy. They actually, you understand how much weight they have. Okay, so essentially we are not independent. This is a concept created by the matrix and the by the matrix essentially, which is integrated into our social structures of the matrix for generations, and and as a general model of the matrix, because the matrix is of course designed for us to experience separation. Okay, so because this matrix is designed to experience and master separation, as we learn how to go from separation back to unity, which is what we are inherently, all of the constructs in this matrix are going to exemplify that. And of course, through social engineering, through religion, and through compartmentalizing of all these different parts of ourselves in this that's a direct manifestation of that experience for separation. We have a lot of separate parts of us. Okay, and so when we interact with people that we love, that we connect with, we kind of have been taught that in order to survive, we have to wear many different masks. Okay. And so every single mask that we create is in order to survive certain relationships, with this idea that we are protecting and preserving the most authentic parts of us to avoid getting hurt, to avoid experiencing suffering and pain. But there's such a profound inversion to this, because in reality, when the human comes into their most authentic self, when the human comes into its deepest authenticity and connection with themselves, this is really their ability to see discernment. This is their ability to discern what is true, and to understand the difference between truth and deception. And so what causes the biggest amount of trauma for a human soul, especially a young human soul, is that what they feel innately as this innocent soul coming into this physical construct, is they are most connected to unity, right? Because they just have incarnated, they were in the nice warm womb of the mother, and even within the womb of the mother, within that unity, within that warmth, they begin to feel these external emotions, very strong external emotions from the mother and the father, that begin to give them an idea of what it's going to be like when they come out into the world, right? And so let's say the mother felt profound fear that she was incapable of being a mother when the child arrived, and there was insecurities, doubts, angers, problems with her partner, and this constant fear now becomes infused in the child. The child is surrounded in this environment of these emotional belief systems, and they literally embed in the genetic code of the child. And when the child is born with filters of perception right away. Okay, so it becomes very difficult for the child's core true essence to differentiate the difference between themselves and the programs that they're receiving from the external world. So this is where we start experiencing this fragmentation. And so everything that we're receiving then as we develop, until the age of 7, which is where we create and we define our core ethics and belief systems. So what happens is that it's very difficult for us to understand what are our core belief systems, are the true core belief systems that are not based on survival, because everyone outside of us in this world, as you know, mother, father, and everyone else, is modeling survival mechanisms, not necessarily coming from authenticity and the source self, but just to survive. And so truth and authenticity become kind of a slippery, you know, convoluted way of looking at reality, and we don't really we don't learn to embody authenticity. We don't feel that it's safe, and because this is so deeply connected, the neural pathways that were created from the womb until the age of 7, based on what we learned from mom and dad, um, you know, those create neural pathways, and they create programming in the nervous system. So it becomes, it becomes part of the nature of the human. And if the human is taught that to be dishonest is the safest way to exist, it will be very difficult to convince that person otherwise. They would have to deconstruct completely all of the subconscious programs in which they hold very carefully onto dishonesty as a survival mechanism in order to find who their true authentic self is. Now, when you're doing this work, and I know a lot of you are doing this work, what you're going to find is that actually, as you begin to uncover those layers of masks that you're wearing, the toughest layer that will be difficult to break is actually the masks that you wear within yourself towards yourself, because we actually we haven't been taught in this society to really question the core belief systems that we have, our ethics, our ethics, because most of the ethics are designed and created by socially engineered and norms that we are indoctrinated with belief systems, and we learn what is modeled from the external world. Okay, so all of these aspects are parts of us that have to come to the surface. Just as you see here in the column of the old self, I'm showing you this chart here, but don't think about the old, present, and post transformation yet. I just want you to focus on what is being listed here under this old self. Okay, we'll talk about what the old self is in a moment, but all of these elements are major contributors to the way that we perceive reality and truth, and they completely will contribute to the kind of ethics and the way that we think what is ethical. And another layer of that is we are kind of waking up from generations and generations of religion being a major influence, because religion combined with uh, politics, right? And that was very strategically done in order to maintain certain bloodlines, family lineages in control through history, and they continue to be that way. And all of this is going to be deconstructed in the next 10 to 12, 15 years, because we are moving out of those deeply compartmentalized. So you as a human organism, you're not the only thing that's moving towards unity consciousness. The entire structure of reality is also moving towards unity. And that means that all of the compartmentalizations that have been deeply embedded to create societal structures are going to be dissolving. And what will emerge is a more unity, more holistic way of existing, living, and interacting. And of course, it's not something that we're waiting for these systems to do, but we are doing that within ourselves. And that is a natural side effect of waking up consciousness. When you wake up consciousness, when you begin to do this internal shadow work, you cannot live in compartmentalized parts of you. You can't have one side that is the one that shows up at work, and you can't have one side that is the deeply spiritual. You can't have a relationship where it's superficial and there's no true depth, and you can't be deeply connected to yourself at the same time. Okay, so these kinds of dichotomies within ourselves and within ourselves in the world that we're experiencing, essentially we have to integrate them at some point, and make sense to them in order to be able to live with true integrity. Now, this is extremely important because in order to build trust with the self, in order to build this truth that we talked about, and in order to understand what ethics, what is most ethical, integrity is extremely important because um, the integrity that you place towards your belief will give you the outcomes of your life, right? So if you are a person that believes that it's okay for you to lie to yourselves and to others, for example, and you maintain that as your truth, your life will produce lots of chaos, right? Lots of problems. There will be disconnects between yourself, between others, and therefore your entire life ends up a life of suffering and continuous cycles of repeating programs. Now, remember that a lot of these belief systems that we're breaking now are a product of ancestral trauma, which are a direct connection and result of family core systems based on culture, society, religion, socioeconomic um, structures of our ancestral lineages, gender roles, okay, and then of course your personality that you create, the identity that's created in a relationship, either with a loved one, a partner, a husband, a wife, or with our families, okay, and then the greater. So what ends up happening is that all of these parts of you, if you are looking to shift that and to come into what is most true, we have utilized all of these departments of ourselves to create masks. So those masks are all a product of those departments. And essentially what ends up happening is that we are not able, we are so attached to these identities that we create. So when some variable happens, when some change happens, okay, of course, it's extremely difficult to handle changes in our lives. Okay, so this is why change is so difficult for a human. This is why coming into transformation, coming into regeneration of yourself, making major changes, there are many different things that have participated in creating the structure of yourself. So anytime something changes, oh, everything starts to fall apart. So this is why it is so important for you as this soul to see yourself as the non-physical and the non-finite. Because all of these identities that you've created, all of these, belief systems and structures and personalities and things that you've worked so hard to cultivate and are currently working hard to cultivate, are going to go through major transformation, because all of this is going to change. Everything that you see in this first column here in the next 10-15 years will absolutely change, and this is a fact. You can be very sure about that. And we're starting those major changes now. Many of you have already started those changes, and you've seen them in the world over the past 3-4 years, because it's the preparation for that. We're going into the age of Aquarius, period 9. All of these different, we're ending, especially tomorrow, actually in the calendar, we're literally ending a certain vessel, a certain timeline right now. A collective timeline is ending literally tomorrow, the 15th of January, astrologically, universal astrology. And it's something that many ancient civilizations have been preparing for, because of these major shifts of collective frequency that we're now going into. So how do you prepare for that major change? Is that you have to start to program yourself to understand that you are not the body, you are not finite, you are not finite. Okay, that's the first thing that has to happen. You need to understand that you are actually this source, the source that is inhabiting this vessel temporarily. And your source of everything is essentially you, yourself, because you are the direct creator of the experiences that you are experiencing. So collectively, we're going through these changes, but individually, you're going to be going through these changes. Okay. So what does that look like to embody that change? Okay. The embodiment of that change would be to begin to understand the integration of our ancestral trauma. Okay. The awareness of the repetitive cycles that you have been designed to break this generation. How do you know that? Very simple. Sit with yourself and think of the lowest emotion that you keep coming into in the past day. Just simply start right there. Okay. What's the emotion that you've most come into in the past 24 hours? The lowest one. Okay. And you know this because your body, and so, well, this is part of this challenge, but your connection to your emotional body will be your most powerful survival tool in the next 15 years, because the emotional body is the gateway to the higher faculties. You cannot have an intuition if you're disconnected from your emotional body, period. You cannot. So if you think you're intuitive, but you're deeply disconnected from your emotions, you can be 100% sure that your intuition is being filtered and can only reach the limit of the level of connection that you have and the depth that you have of understanding of yourself emotionally. So this is extremely important because this is where we start talking about the new human. Okay, the new human biologically ends up being an entirely different species of being. Not only are we becoming multidimensional, but I mean, we've always been multidimensional, right? But now, because the veil is thinning, there's the connection between that divine self, the divine and the non-physical, and the actual physical body and the embodiment of that. That's what this entire timeline that we are creating together is about. And that's what unity consciousness is about, the embodiment of the unification of all fractals of yourself in the present moment, not to survive in the matrix, but to co-create within this matrix. And that requires the integration of the three major energy centers of your organism. Okay, the Qing, the Qi, and the Shen, right? The lower, the middle, and the upper Dantian, the energy centers which can only come online, they only become activated when you integrate the data that you're running and processing through the individual chakra centers, which means you are harmonizing the duality within you, you are neutralizing and bringing into harmony and balance your nervous system through the work of your shadows and imbalanced aspects in each one of the chakra bodies, each one of these chakras, because each one of the chakras is processing this data right here. Ancestral trauma, family beliefs, social beliefs, religion, socioeconomic, gender, personalities, ideas and identities and attachments. This is what your chakra system is processing right now. Okay. And the more disconnect there is between your trauma, if you don't know your trauma from childhood, if you have no idea what happened to you, if you're completely unconscious of yourself, then you are going to be run by that trauma, and your life is created directly by that trauma. So it's not enough to just say, because that's not the way that this world functions. It's not enough to say that, the past is the past. I don't need to revisit that anymore. Well, you're actually not only revisiting it, but you're living it every single day. And we know that because of the state of your emotional mastery. So if you're a person that avoids your emotions, avoids your truth, avoids difficult situations and triggers, all of that resistant energy causes illness and death in your body. Okay. And so what's happening now, we've seen it over the past 3-4 years, that every human that is in resistance to these cycles of change and regeneration, what happens? They die. Okay, they die physically, they die mentally, they die emotionally. There's a major disconnect with the organism. And as you know, when the organism isn't flowing in that harmony, sorry, when we're not flowing in that harmonious integration in order to create that incredible Planck charge of implosion within us, with the energy coming into a centripetal spin, where you redirect your attention from the outside to the inside, creating a transmutation, a transduction of your own creation. So you then become a creator. And what that looks like essentially is that you integrate those ancestral traumas, you integrate the fractals of yourself that are created as a result of trauma, you heal. And what healing means, becoming whole. Okay, so anytime that you see these family belief systems, in your playing them out, compartmentalized and separate, anytime that it's coming from fear and separation, when belief systems are coming from fear and separation, our job is to transmute them back to unity. Okay, so that requires that results in healing. And the healing that I'm talking about is not just emotionally, but also physically. So if you are dealing with an illness, and you can be dealing with an ancestral illness, an illness that, runs down the family for many generations, and you turned on all of the, um, you know, uh, your genetic codes in order to allow that illness to thrive in your body now, um, we need to shift that. So all of the choices and decisions that we make in what we're eating, feeling, sensing, doing in our life to create environment for illness have to be healed. And your environment internally, biologically, has to become an environment for healing and for unity. And that can only happen with reconnection. So the direct result of that unity created within the body results in sovereignty. Okay, you become a sovereign individual because you are now the master of this physical body. Okay, and you're beginning to embody this new human, the new human, which is deeply connected to their emotions, deeply connected to the body, which means that they can heal this body, which means that they can intuitively navigate this physical three-dimensional realm in a way that's intuitive, connected, and with profound trust and intentional. Now you exist intentionally. You see, instead of looking outside for religions and the ideas that there is information outside of you that is more important than the information that's inside, any ideas that the powers external to you are more powerful than you, let's say deities, gods, aliens, whatever it is that you think is more powerful and more advanced than you, letting go and foregoing your own reconnection to your own DNA, your own holographic DNA, your own Akashic records, because all of that is in you. And so the human that decides that they want to continue looking outside for that information becomes a depletion of their own energy. And you no longer see yourself as the source. Okay? So this is difficult for the human because the human becomes terrified of a couple things. We become terrified of being annihilated. The personality becomes annihilated. The ego is fearful of being annihilated. And also, we are afraid to trust that we are going to be able to protect ourselves, or that there is, that we are the source of our protection, of our guidance. Okay, and this is something that you will be forced into understanding in the next 15 years, because it's the nature of this current timeline. Okay, the Aquarian age, period 9, you can look at all the different kinds of messages from this universe that are coming to us, letting us understand that the way to ascension is through here. It's through the vessel, through the human vessel. Okay, and there's no other way. There's no shortcut. There's no one that's going to do it for you. There's no special magic intuitive person that's going to do it for you. There's no plant medicine that's going to do it for you. You actually have to do it because you are building the organism, because you are a fractal of the universe. Your physical body is the vessel. You are the fractal of the entire universe. Okay, so there is no there when you are cultivating this connection with yourself, you are literally creating neural pathways in your brain, but you're also creating neural pathways with this morphogenetic field. Okay, and this is how you become one. You become one, like organically you are one. So your awareness of becoming one is essentially the absolute organic change of your body into this merkaba, right, which is the implosion within the body, which creates the inverted triangle, closing the depletion of your life force out into the matrix, into the material realm, and redirecting that life force with intention to the internal and to the connection of the whole. So that alchemization of yourself is what will create this incredible harmonized polarity, because now you're not looking at things dualistically, feminine and masculine. Now they are integrated into one. And you are able to create and manifest. Why? Because you can look at any example of any sage in history. The way that you manifest and bring into the physical form is through the integration and of the qing, the qi, which creates the shen. Okay, our primordial life force, the sexual energy, redirecting that creative energy, redirecting back into the heart center, unconditional love, which then creates. Okay, and biologically, we are designed for that with sex, with the union of the male and the masculine. When they unite, they biologically can create a child with that union. So it's an example for you to understand. It is the architecture of this entire universe that we understand the mechanics of co-creation are not just for procreation. They're for all levels of creation. Okay. And essentially, what happens when you integrate this with yourself, you now become service to the collective. So that unity consciousness that you've now embodied can be of service to the collective only when you have now integrated into a higher level of creation, of creator self. Okay, I don't have that slide here with me. Creator levels, remember the creator levels, right? We go from absolute separation into unity consciousness. Let's take a look at that for a minute. Just to refresh our memory of what these creator levels are all about. Okay, so the new human essentially is the one that is in unity. Okay, so how does this relate to this process of life and death, and what is it that we're allowing to die? So if you were paying close attention to what I was just saying, we have to allow many parts of us to die in this process, and we have to let go of all the things that we have become attached to that are leading us towards death. Okay, so okay, so let's start from the inside out. Okay, from the inside out, old selves. Okay, the personalities that we created to survive, old relationship dynamics, old ways of being, codependent, toxic exchanges of our life force. Okay, codependent, toxic exchanges, very important. Anytime that our exchange with ourselves or with something external is imbalanced in any way, it becomes toxic. When we give more than we're receiving, or when we receive more than we are giving. Okay, and that is the depletion of your life force, number one. Number two, it means that you're deeply disconnected with your intuition, okay, because you are not able to discern that imbalance. If you're not able to discern the imbalances in your life, then you are leading towards this slow death in your own self. And many parts of you are also dying in that process, because the parts of you that you have not acknowledged are going to be suffering and in perpetual yearning to be supported, loved, provided for, because they don't know that you are the one that's going to provide that for them. Okay, so essentially all of that is affecting you at the very core. Okay, so internally. So externally, let's say with relationships with friends, right? When there's imbalanced exchange, depletion of energy, depletion of life force, coming off your course, off your purpose, behaving in self-destructive ways. Okay, so let's go to relationships, partnerships, marriages, right? When we are in partnerships that are imbalanced, this is actually the most destructive and most powerful at the same time relationship that we have. Second to the relationship that we have with ourselves is a relationship that we have in our unions and then with our children. Okay, because what happens again in a union is that you literally become one with the other. Okay, and the resonance that brings you together can be anywhere on that creator scale. Okay, so wherever you're at, and remember, this creation scale is talking to the deepest core ethics, the integrity with yourself, and your spiritual evolution. So your resonance will attract the partner that is in alignment with whichever one of these levels you're at. And so that's a really huge thing that you need to realize, because when we deal with partnerships that are imbalanced exchanges and the resonance comes from low place of power, protection, disconnect, we really begin to create chaos in our lives, and relationships are used to highlight these parts of you. Why? Because relationships will always waken up within you and trigger your deepest shadows, always. It's because they are a direct mirror. The relationship is a direct mirror. So you will not attract someone that isn't absolutely a mirror to the things that you are dealing with internally or haven't dealt with. And it's the same with children, and even worse. The children that you bring into this world are going to highlight, magnify, exemplify, expand all of the lower parts of you that you have not mastered. It will trigger all of those parts of you to the 10th dimension. So these are the relationships that we have to be aware of, and the dynamics and the amount of responsibility that you have as a human to gauge. And before you enter into any of these relationships with the world outside of you, that you get so clear about where you're at, that you know yourself so deeply, so that when you enter into one of these relationships, you are able to be as much of a whole as you possibly can, so that both of you take the responsibility of holding space for one another. Now, what happens in the time of a death and departure? is that because your entire universes have merged into one, when there is a death of one of the partners, all of the identities and all of the parts of this individual become magnified and feel a void, a profound void. This can also be for divorces, breakups, separations of any kind, because these are all processes of separation. Anytime that we experience separation, we're talking about death. Okay. So in this process of separation, you are going to have to rebalance within yourself um, the identities and personalities that were created within that union. Okay, so this is why it's extremely important that when we're in the process of having relationships, that we maintain the integrity of the self, that we maintain and we understand what are our core values, what are our ethics. Okay, who are you at that core? And if you don't know who you are, get to know yourself as soon as possible. Because this is what makes separation and death difficult. We become extremely comfortable with these parts of ourselves because they are survival mechanisms that we strongly believe that we need them in order to survive and to be safe. But as you can see, in reality, all of those survival mechanisms and all of those core ethics, if they're not embodied in a state of unity and neutrality, they will always create suffering for you, because we will always look outside of us for the integration of those things. So in other words, one of the most difficult parts of dealing with death is that we are going to have to face now. It's one of the most powerful alchemizing experiences, is that you have to face who you are, who you have become up until that point, and everything that you've become familiar and comfortable with, in order to find yourself again. Okay, so this is where loss becomes very difficult for humans, because most of the suffering, and this might be hard to hear, but a lot of the times we weep more for our own suffering than we do for the other, because in reality, we know inherently within us these cycles of nature. Okay, we know them. We have them embedded within our genetic code. It's embedded within the self-healing mechanisms of our organism, that we know we inherently that we are these infinite. Okay, and that essentially when you die, the physical dies. Okay, and the ability to trust yourself at the time of death and any circumstance, it is this perpetual fear of the unknown. We fear the unknown, we fear the unfamiliar. And we fear that because we haven't taken the time to get to know ourselves, because so much of us is unfamiliar to us. So those of you that are terrified of death, terrified of suffering and pain, and your entire life revolves around avoiding pain and suffering as much as possible, those are the people that know themselves the less, because there's a profound disconnect between your shadows, that we have to take the time to get to know. And when you simply sit in a meditation, I mean, it shouldn't take you more than maybe a month maximum. Let's say you sit in meditation for 1 hour every day. I mean, even within a week, you will very quickly see your patterns of your shadows very quickly. And so to alchemize them is to understand what is truth, and to understand what's truth is to understand what is most in alignment with nature, the natural laws of nature, with which are embedded in the regeneration cycles of life and death. So the more we embody nature, the more we connect with nature, the more we are operating in the ebb and flow of life, the more the organism becomes okay with receiving and giving. And let me add another layer to this. Not only are we biologically designed for this, but we talked about yesterday or 2 days ago, we talked about how we are connected to the elements of this planet. Well, the elements in themselves are all about regeneration. One fuels the other, and also they have complementary elements, and there's also destructive elements to one another. Okay, so we have encoded within our body, literally within every hour of the day, certain parts of our bodies are regenerating, cells are dying, new cells are being grown. So we have this encoded within our biology. We have it encoded within the cycles. It doesn't matter what part of the world you live in, your hemisphere is aligned to its own cycle, okay, of this exact same cycle in your own hemisphere. Okay, because again, it's these dualistic constructs that we're a part of. So the entire body that is processing emotions of every kind, we are designed to process fluidly through the body. And remember that anytime that we don't process an emotion, let's say grief, let's say the feeling of grief, the feeling of sorrow, this part of your body that is in charge of processing that data becomes ill. Okay, so this is how we know that we are designed to process life and death. That as soon as the body starts to resist an emotion as a result of this experience, this external experience, which again, this is why it's important to remember, we exist in a holographic construct. Holographic, non-physical. Okay, it seems physical, it's very convincing, but in reality, the way that we direct this entire experience of your life is based on those core beliefs that you have within you. So you could be living a completely different life right now if you changed your core beliefs about yourself and the world outside of you. Your perception will absolutely change of reality completely. So if we know that to be true, let's talk about biologically what happens in the etheric body. On the right, we have the disruption. This body is completely clouded with disruption. They are not in alignment with what is happening. They're not in alignment with reality. And what is reality? Reality is ebb and flow. It's the closest to nature and the cycles of life and death that regenerate and revolve in and around us. So as soon as we start to be in resistance with that, and this the training of resistance happens at a very early age when we're children. Here's why. Because when you're born, you are closest to the source, to the experience of the source, which is unity consciousness, which is unconditional love, which is this innocence, this childlike state of innocence and wonder of all things that we're not judging, we're just experiencing. And we don't know if this pointy scissors are dangerous yet. We don't know that it's going to cut us. We don't know it can hurt us. We don't know how to get to that pain. So that innocence that is inside of us allows us the opportunity to explore the sensations through the sensory body through our lives without judging them. But as soon as we start embodying judgments and belief systems about things without understanding the flexibility of how to master the choices and the free will around those experiences, this is how the disconnect starts to happen. And that resistance and that disruption between yourself and the other external to you creates major, major complications in your energetic body. So at a very early age, we can experience horrible things as a child, and we know inherently that those are inversions of what is natural. And so immediately we hold within us this resistance. And so I want to clarify that inherently there is no good and bad. There is no right and wrong. There is cause and effect. Okay, that's something that you're going to discover in your meditation work when you start to revisit incredibly traumatic memories of your childhood. And you're going to want to resist what you're seeing and experiencing and witnessing. And you're going to want to judge and have all these angers and hates and very strong emotions that want to resist what you're experiencing and seeing. But where the human transmutes and the whole process of transduction bioelectrically is when you begin to put yourself in the shoe of the perpetrator, quote unquote, the perpetrator of your suffering. Because what you discover is that actually it's not them that causes suffering, but the way that we perceive what they do to us. If that external person is a product of severe trauma and suffering and abuse, they will only know that, and they will embody that and express that in their life. And again, this is really, really difficult for us, because in the ethics of this world, we're deeply pushed to independence without understanding the amount of interdependence that we have, and we all are deeply interdependent to one another. So we have these ideas about mother and father and what they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to know. But all of these roles that are being played in the world are constructs that are created. And I want to add another layer to that. Every single human is moving through the 12, 13 archetypal aspects of themselves, and they revolve and are evolving through all of those. So all of the deepest shadows of those archetypal parts, positive and negative, are coming to the surface throughout the entire 100 years of life, potentially 100 years of life. Whatever amount of the lifespan of that organism will revolve and cycle through all of those aspects, archetypal aspects of themselves. So, we need to, this is why the nature of each human, there's many layers to them. So we have to shift. The new human is a fluid observer that observes and understands. There's a certain level of spiritual maturity that is able to watch these transformations of others and of ourselves and as the experiences, in order for us as the master to be able to choose how we are going to contribute to the experience that's occurring to us. And so to be in resistance of these experiences creates major illness and disruption in the flow of your body, your mind. And again, we are given experiences based on ancestral history. So if your ancestral history, you have, for example, sexual abuse, which one of those are going to break the pattern? Either being the victim of the abuse or being the perpetrator of the abuse. One of those generations has to break that pattern so that they stop inheriting the trauma or the abuse to the next generation. So one or the other has to wake up consciousness. And so the only way to do that is by becoming aware of our core belief systems and where they have been inverted from nature. The closer you get to nature, you will realize that everything is a cycle, life and death, everything is cause and effect. This will allow you to embody compassion. And compassion is the most powerful transmutational energy. Because when you begin to feel compassion, not only for the other, but for yourself, this is actually the hardest and most powerful part. Because when you start feeling compassion for yourself, you are not going to want to exist in the disruption status. You will rebel against that disruption status that essentially is handed down through the generational traumas, through societal norms and structures. Remember, all of these ancestral trauma, family beliefs, social belief systems, all of these systems that are inversions of what is true in order to experience separation. Remember, all of these are a product of organizing a construct. We exist within a construct, this matrix, in order for the humans to experience separation. So to invert that from separation to unity, all these constructs have to dissolve, and the product of that would have to be the human that is no longer repeating those separation constructs. They are existing outside of those constructs. This is why the human can transcend anything in the physical realm. We can even transcend our astrology. We can transcend our archetypes by reuniting, reintegrating them. We can transcend our trauma. We can transcend the physical. And this is what ends up being the rainbow body, which all these Buddhists and all these Taoist monks talk about, the rainbow body being the self-organization of infinite potential in the body. Infinite potential means anything is possible. Positive, we're not talking about positive or negative. Anything is possible for the human experience. Who is the master of that infinite potential is the one that decides to be a creator. And so the only way to become a creator is self-organizing the duality within the body to come into harmony. This is where you begin to spin. Here's your disruptor, right? From this depletion of your life force, you now become the creator. Okay, so you are no longer a centripetal disruption. You now become a centrifugal flow, because you have redirected all of the victim mentality, all of the powerlessness, hopelessness, disconnect, depletion of your life force is now redirected to your creation of yourself. That is huge. And what that does is it opens up your source cord. It opens the source cord. It allows the flow of source to be able to irrigate the body back to life, vitality, co-creation, health in the body. The organism becomes healthy. The mind becomes healthy, balanced, harmonized. The way that we exchange with ourselves and the world outside us becomes harmonized. Okay? So the death that we are experiencing are going to be constant, because in this constant state of flow, in order for you to be centripetal, okay, you have to let go of all the things that keep wanting to be leaked outside until you become a generator, the source. Okay, what's the new human? Constant flow, intentional co-creation. They see themselves as the source, which the direct result of that is an intentional existence. You don't exist because, you are barely making it, a product of trauma, abuse, helpless, disconnected, addicted, running away, constant looking for the next hit, looking for the next high. You're not run by your nervous system or your imbalanced biochemistry. You're not run by the deep desire for love, approval, acceptance of anything external. You are the source of unconditional love because you are a generator of love, of your own acceptance, of your own approval. And with that cultivation, you cultivate an incredibly high intuition, a very accurate intuition that isn't tainted by the filters of your perception as a result of trauma and the illusion of separation. So the human that cultivates these higher faculties as a result of this regulated nervous system, biochemically, bioelectrically in the body, becomes a conduit. And we align with nature. We are deeply connected to nature. And this is where you end up embodying these Jedi-like abilities to manifest. You bring forth everything that you require in the material. Whatever you need, it just comes to you. It just shows up. Whatever, experience that you wish to experience, you consciously bring that in. And so the new human, and that in that perspective, there is a major responsibility around that, because what's happening now and what's happening in the collective, because we're already here, guys, we're already here. Okay, so if you are not working towards the embodiment of this whole self, you're going to be experiencing a lot of contrast and a lot of resistance in your everyday experiences, because things are speeding up, um, which means that the manifestation of things are coming into the manifested form faster. So all of those little random thoughts you used to have, those dreams, those desires that you used to have, well, they're happening now. Like, they're actually going to be happening. And so the question is, are you ready for them? Are you gonna recognize them, or are you gonna miss your opportunities? Are you going to ruin incredible relationships? Are you going to ruin your ability to teach and to heal and to hone and to unite yourself and the collective? Heal your ancestral lineage, integrate your fractals of yourself for navigation. Are you going to wake up consciousness when you are having an interdimensional contact, and then know how to navigate in that experience? See, all of us are beginning to experience these things, and so you need to understand how to prepare for them. Okay, and so essentially, the work that we're doing here is to embody this highest state of co-creation. And our ability to master this cycles of death and rebirth, and allowing the old to die, is naturally being in alignment with nature. Okay, so anytime that we are resisting letting go of those old selves, those old parts of us, we are literally creating stagnation and death within our body. Okay, and so this is something that we're also teaching our family members. We're sharing with those loved ones that we have around us that the most compassionate thing to do is to embody the compassion of yourself, in order for you to understand that when you feel these negative emotions in your body, you cause illness and death in your own body. Okay, and so you must love yourself so much that you're thinking, hey, I don't, I did suffer, I felt the emotion, I felt the sorrow, I was sad about it. I understand why it happened. I understand my participation in it. And now I don't want to continue polluting the body with this unnecessary emotion, because there comes a point where you become addicted to those emotions. Okay, and that's another thing, that when we're not conscious of why we feel ways that we do, why we continue certain patterns, we just do it mechanically, right? So again, like hypnosis, you're hypnotized, you're not conscious, you're just doing the repetitive thing that feels comfortable to you. And suffering can be very comfortable to you because it's the only thing you've ever known. So if that is your state of belief, to break that pattern would be for you to feel uncomfortable for a little bit in a state of harmony and peace. Mm-hmm. Maybe you've never felt that, and a lot of you haven't. So you have to become familiar with peace, with joy, with love, with compassion. You have to familiarize yourself with that. And that's really hard for a lot of people, because some people have never felt those emotions in their life. They think they have. They think they have ideas of what that feels like. But to truly, truly embody that without having a nervous system that wants to run away in a minute or so, is actually what's keeping you from embodying your highest expression. And remember, the moment that you embody a new set of chemistry in your body, you have completely mutated many of these cyclical traumas that you're handing down your generations. Your children, if you have children, they will feel it, because your DNA is in them. You are one with that child. So everything that you do internally in your own healing work is also shifting them. So this begins to change this chain reaction of healing. This is how you heal the collective, through yourself, because we're deeply connected to the morphogenetic field, which then is responding to the creation of you, of your core. You are creating, essentially. Okay. All right. So let me pause and take some questions, and then I'm going to jump into the meditation. Okay. All right. If you want, go ahead. Cedric, thank you so much for that beautiful super chat. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you. Inga says, how many generations need to be passed to become this world more beautiful and peaceful? Again, the world external to you is a direct reflection of what you hold in your subconscious mind. So the world is very beautiful. It is very peaceful. We create disharmony, we feed disharmony with the internal disharmony that we have within ourselves. Okay, so first of all, don't look outside, wait for the world outside to change. No, this is gonna, again, that's a centrifugal move. Okay, that's a very centrifugal move, expecting the external world to show that peace, that harmony. Okay, the implosion within yourself, to reconnect all of your energy back into yourself, to gather yourself, to create harmony and peace in your body, will then create this timeline collectively. So you will live your own universe of peace and harmony. You have to create your own universe of peace and harmony within you. It doesn't mean that you're ignoring the things that are happening external to you, but you must understand that you crying every day about the things that are happening outside, or putting emotional input into the things that are happening external to you, are not going to help, not a single person. And so this is something that also socially in our society, it's been inverted, this idea. What does it mean to help someone? We don't know the ethics of helping someone. We don't even know how we're going to help someone. And actually, most of our actions are selfish, because we're addicted to the pain and suffering. We feel the pain and suffering in our body, and we're just running through that emotion. Why? Because you're addicted, not because you even understand how to help this external situation outside of us. So this is where we have to get very, we have to mature in our spiritual understanding about the collective and the nature of this construct. How does it function? Well, it functions from the inside out, right? So you are a universe, and your universe is important. When you within your universe create harmony and peace, the universe outside aligns to that. And the more of us that create universes of harmony and peace within us will change collective timelines. You change collective timelines. And we've seen it when it's happened with the pandemic. Okay, we didn't buy the stories that were being told to us, so it shifted things tremendously. Because 4 years ago, if we all went in a different direction, we would be in a very different place right now. And it was very close. We almost were. Okay, and right now, again, people choose their timelines. So all the ideas of guilt and shame, being narcissistic, being selfish, we have to get clear about these concepts, because actually self-love, cultivation of your universe, is the only way biochemically, biomechanically in the universe to create change. So we have to redirect that attention to become a generator of harmony in this universe. And it's important, right? It's up to you. It's up to you how you want to do it, but your contribution is in your life. So what does your life look like? Okay. And to be of service to the collective is precisely the embodiment of source. So if you embody source, you are being of service to the collective. It doesn't mean you have to go do something. Okay. All right. Let's go and see. If you have any question, put it in capital letters so that I can answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into the meditation and I can get questions at the end. Okay. Let's see, any questions? Capital letters. Inga says, Geraldine, how it feels to be integrated into one. You live this way, how you feel to live this way. My native language is Lithuanian, which you understand what I mean. I do understand. Yeah, so um, the best way that I can describe that is this way. So the new human is very familiar with core emotions of co-creation. Okay, so in order to co-create, we have to feel unconditional love. Are you familiar with unconditional love? Do you know what that means? Does any part of you still feel guilt, shame, or fear when you think of unconditional love, when you begin to feel or explore the feeling of unconditional love? If you still feel any of those emotions, you don't know what unconditional love is. Okay? Because to embody unconditional love means to be able to see all things as an extension of yourself, as a part of yourself. So again, and this is kind of like the core foundation. When you talk about what I just talked about earlier, about you creating your universe of love and harmony, that's a lot of work in itself. For you to deprogram your childhood trauma, and it doesn't stop there. To really embody unconditional love, when you're done with your childhood trauma, you're going to go into past lives that will come up. You have to do that work, all of you. You will go into your past lives. You must, because your past lives will present themselves to you. Okay? And those repetitive, and that's your ancestral DNA that you activate and you wake up. So that those past lives, you begin to heal, integrate. You can do it through hypnotherapy. You can do it through your own meditation. I did it through meditation by myself, with myself, without any guidance. Just as you begin to uncover through the emotional body all the generations that have been under the same programs, they will naturally emerge. Okay. And so the next step after that is a lot of you are going to start having interdimensional consciousness. You're going to have lucid dreams, out of body experiences, because the next step is to begin to work with your interdimensionality. So you will have vivid lucid dreams. You will have ET contact, interdimensionals, extraterrestrial beings, extraterrestrials, interdimensionals. You will interact with those because these are also your ancestors. Okay. And so you will have to the same integrate trauma from these parts of you. And it's never ending as you become aware of yourself in all dimensions. Okay, this is the integrated self that can navigate any unknown situation, whether it's an alien or whether it's the war, World War III. Can you navigate, whether it's a breakup, can you navigate all of those scenarios from a place of unconditional love and completely connected to your source without fear? That is the embodiment of unity, because you begin to see all things as an extension of yourself. Okay, and so the way that you live isn't about survival. It's not about, distractions. It's not about, going out to, do stuff. Your life changes. The meaning of your life, the quality of your life changes. Your body changes, your organism, the way that you eat, the way that you feed, the way that you care for yourself changes into something that is more holistic. All of your choices, you make them carefully, understanding the consequences of your choices. Okay, from the clothes that you buy to the food that you're buying, everything begins to shift. But a lot of these things, because they're true, they're manipulated by the system. And because the system knows this, utilizes these little compartmentalized parts of that and makes money off it, right? So ultimately, our way of life slowly changes. But my advice is this: what I see in the spiritual community is that people have do all the stuff that look like what's unconditional love, right? They live on a farm, they have these communities, these spiritual communities, they do, but in reality, they themselves, they still don't know themselves. They still don't really have they're still not navigating their dreams. Saying, you see, it's a different way of being. It has nothing to do with the external. Your life doesn't have to look like any spiritual self or anything like that. No more masks, right? It's just that you embody and that you exist in a state of harmony within yourself and with the collective. That is really the work, and that's what it feels like. What it feels like is peace. Okay, can you embody peace, real peace? Not just that, not because you sat down and meditated, but from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, and then in dream time, can you still feel peace? Can you be in the presence of a Draco Lord and then still sustain your sense of internal harmony? Okay, that's the thing. So this creates an incredibly masterful multidimensional body. You have thick gray matter in your brain, down your spine. You're alchemically utilizing your sexual energy, and that's another department we didn't even talk about. But you cultivate your sexual energy. You understand the importance of your vital life force. You're not depleting it. Okay, you're not like watching porn or depleting that sexual energy. You are utilizing it, regenerating and utilizing that for your cultivation, your healing, your manifestation. Completely different thing. Okay, and in your relationships, you focus on building, co-creating harmoniously. There's no fear, competition, separation. No, you just don't exist in those worlds because they are not in alignment with unity. And so, rather than working towards an ideal, any ideal, even the ones I mentioned here are not going to even begin to describe the embodiment of Source. You have to, through your own internal work, create your own embodiment of Source. Okay, and so so for every person, again, because we're designed through our genetic bloodlines, your very unique genetic bloodline, you are a fractal of infinite potential designed to heal this ancestral lineage. Okay, so you're not even just healing for yourself. The fact that you heal yourself, you heal an entire generations of other human souls that are existing simultaneous to you. This is the beauty. This is how you are inherently all healers, because you are healing all of this. Okay, I hope that answers the question. Just Michael, is that a question? Can you tell me? Oh, Louisa, thank you so much for that super chat. Wow, that's so sweet of you. Thank you. So much love to you. Thank you so much. Just Michael says, I have been practicing semen retention for the past year and a half. I live with my partner and we sleep in the same bed. She's not interested in seeking towards any type of ascension. How can I cut it off there? I don't know what your question is. How can I semen retention worth it for males, or is it more use it or lose it? So just Michael, there are someone that I would invite you to check out is Mantak Chia, that talks a lot about that. He has this amazing book about male cultivation of life force, male mastery, and so he goes in depth about this topic. So definitely check that out. But so here's the thing with semen retention. The purpose of these practices are that you understand the responsibility that lies behind the cultivation of primordial life force as a creator. Okay, again, remember the centripetal and centrifugal way of existing. Okay, so anytime that you are depleting your life force in any way, whether it's through toxic emotional partnerships, toxic emotional partnerships, or depletion, right here, when you are depletion, okay? So, and here's the thing, just the person that will retain the semen and not deplete it all the time, because you just have to understand your biology. When you deplete semen, you're exhausted. You have no energy after that. Okay, that's not a normal thing. And in our modern day culture, that's been made normal. It's biological, it's natural, it's what happens. But for for many centuries, these arts of cultivation of life force have been practiced by royal families and um, you know those that knew the power of the human as a bioelectrical generator of life force. You are a bioelectrical generator of creation. You haven't been told that. And so your most potent energy is your sexual energy. So when you deplete that, you let go of your creative ability. You let go. The studies of what happens when you deplete semen psychologically, emotionally, and physically, even athletes know not to have sex before they go into a game. Why do you think that is? Because there is a retention of that energy that is then redirected towards creation, let's say winning the game. Okay. And so the thing is that all of these arts of the cultivation and mastery of the human have been suppressed, because what happens when you have a generation of men that don't understand sex and their power, their sexual power, you can control them through sex. You can starve them of their ability to create and manifest, and you kill the divine masculine within a culture. And then the masculine becomes enslaved, pursuing power, pursuing the next endorphin hit through sex, right? Which is a temporary pleasure. But all of these cultivation practices know that the art of sex without the depletion of your semen can actually lead to far greater pleasure, far greater pleasure, if you want to talk about pleasure. But more importantly, it's the regeneration of that life force back into creation, so that you become a human that is fully in control and mastery of your urges, of your desires, because all men and women in general, are controlled by their desires. And the less of a self mastery and awareness of yourself and your own desires, the more you fear your desires, are ashamed of your desires, judge your desires, the more easily you are a slave to those fears. And that is extremely fragile existence to be in, because anything can break you. Okay, because as soon as something or someone takes away that that crutch that you created for yourself, okay, you fall apart completely. So in the same way that we become sovereign in that we're making our own food, we're farming our own organic, healthy, yummy, live food. We become sovereign in that we're aware of our emotions. We're not manipulated by social media, by we're not being indoctrinated false informations about who we are, where we come from. In that same way, you become sovereign with your energy, which is actually the most important vital life force and currency in this universe, is your DNA. Okay, and this goes way deep into a much deeper topic. This goes really deep into a topic about how your DNA is the most powerful currency in this universe, not only etherically in the hybridization programs, but your soul becomes refracted every time that you create a child and you get looped back into the reincarnation cycle. Your life force becomes depleted, because when you are very free with your semen and let it go in the etheric realms, um, that life force of creation, it doesn't just disappear. Remember, energy is not something that you can just erase or eliminate. All energy is changing. It just changes its form. So the semen that you let go is very easily brought in the etheric realm into hybridization programs. And when you are unconscious, and let's say the intention that you put into the elimination of that is through really toxic pornography or something like this, what you are creating in the ethers with your sexual energy can be extremely destructive. And you entangle yourself energetically into extremely destructive agendas with hybridization program and with many other things. So the cultivation of your life force essentially is in order for you to become the master of your body, to actually sustain real intimacy with your partner, real true intimacy, which is built through the cultivation process and through intercourse that isn't just about release, unless you're going to create another human being. Okay, and please, there is so much more to this because there's a process to it. It's not that you're holding it all the time. The men do have to release at some point. And all of that you can learn about through Mantak Chia. He talks about it very beautifully. I do suggest to watch my videos on energy cultivation and protection so you understand a little bit more about the energy dynamics. He doesn't go too much into that. But yeah, just combine your knowledge. And so to answer your question in short, it is absolutely essential for you as a human, as a divine masculine, as a human just in general, to learn to have sovereignty and mastery over your body. And remember that everything is in resonance. So as you come in and you understand the value of it and you're clear about the value of the holding your energy, your partner may or may not come into resonance with that. And so you can decide then how to proceed and how to continue that. Okay. Linda says, question, Geraldine, if we have pain in the left side and we cannot seem to transmute it, can we simply continue and we eventually will? I feel like my pain gets better and then it worsens. Okay, well, when you tune into the pain, what's the emotion that comes up? Okay, so that pain is something that we are ignoring about ourselves. Either it's a problem that we have in our life, it's a conflict, internal conflict, external conflict. Okay, so where's the disconnect within yourself? So as you tune into that pain, sit with that pain, and if you can describe that pain as an emotion, what emotion would it be? And right there is your entryway into healing that pain. Because as you sit with that emotion, it's going to unpack more emotions. Okay. And every single layer that you go into, I want you to pick the strongest of those layers so you understand which one is the predominant subconscious program that you're running. And so as you open up, try to get to the root of those emotions. Okay. And recognize how familiar are you with that root as you get as far as you can. And once you get to that root of that emotion, take yourself back to the very first time. What happened there? So what happens is that when we experience trauma or suffering, we create a fractal of ourselves that becomes suspended in time. And so what happens is that that becomes a reference point. And so your pain, not only is it being reinforced by your everyday use of that emotion, but you bring back to life all of the fractals of yourself that have also felt that emotion that contribute to the pain that you're feeling. So we need to heal all of those fractals. We have to remind those fractals, shift their perception so they understand better how to process that emotion so that you can release the pain that you have in your body right now. Okay. Now, aside from that, of course, go to the doctor, get it checked, make sure it's not other complications, and remember that the healing of the nervous system will adjust your muscle system, adjust your bones back into harmonious balance. And that's what you want to do. Make sure that, you're moving your energy. What sometimes for those of you that have a lot of trauma, it's difficult to enter into the emotional body. Use yoga. It's incredibly powerful how yoga positions will allow pain and certain emotions to emerge because it's designed for that, right? Every shape that you're making with your body is actually releasing information from the body. I also suggest Qigong, okay? So use Qigong to move the energy. But I highly, highly suggest to use the emotional practice to get to the emotion, because that's really getting to the core root. And you're not only going to heal that pain, but many other complications in the body by doing that one practice. Okay, but use Qigong and use yogas to help you release that emotion if it feels difficult. Some of us have to do all three, all four of them until we get the results. Okay, so the idea is to get to know what we are storing in that part of the body. Okay, let's jump into the meditation. I'm going to answer more of these questions at the end, okay? Yeah, thank you so much for that. I'll answer them when I get back from the meditation. Okay, guys, get nice and comfortable. Let's get started. Okay, come into a state of meditation. Get really nice and comfortable seat. With every breath you take, allow yourself to come into stillness, as much stillness as possible. Breathing deeply and exhale. Go ahead and fill your space that you're in, your home, your room, your office, wherever you are. I want you to fill it with golden light. Surround your entire outside of your body with golden light. Go ahead and visualize the sphere around your body. Making sure that there are no holes in your field. And wherever there are holes or tears or cracks or rips or dark spots that you cannot visualize, go ahead and close them. Repairing your field, your energetic body. Go ahead and focus now on shrinking the root chakra down to the size of a dime, shrinking the sacral, shrinking the solar. Go up into your heart. I want you to expand your heart as you begin to build your Merkaba, expanding your throat, expanding your third eye. Go up into the seventh, the eighth. Go ahead and activate your seventh and the eighth, expanding. I want you to bring from the center of the earth a powerful ray of green light that comes rushing into the body, creating a vortex of energy. From source, go ahead and bring down a powerful wave of golden light that comes down from source, combining with the green earth energy. Go ahead and take 10% of that green and gold energy, send it back down to the center of the earth. Take 80% of that green and gold energy, send it up your spine and from the crown of your head, coating the outside of your field. Green and gold energy comes back into the body, absorbing into the cells, healing. Go ahead and begin to observe yourself in this current state. And I want you to begin to observe and call forth the part of you that has a difficult time letting go of something. Letting go of a part of you. It could be the healing of an old self. It could be letting go of a loved one, accepting a situation that's changed. Go ahead and tune in to the part of you that is in resistance. Wherever you are experiencing deep resistance in any part of your life, take yourself there. And as you begin to connect with the parts of you that are in resistance, go ahead and tune into your body, the emotions that come up. Name them out. Name out those emotions. Okay, you'll immediately notice the strongest emotion because you're going to have the strongest physical response to it. Okay, or part of your body will tense up when you name out the emotion. Okay, go ahead and tune in to the strongest of those emotions. Be absolutely present with those emotions. And as you sit with those emotions, allow the next layer of emotions to emerge. As you are absolutely present with that emotion, name out the emotions that come up. You are observing the emotion in your body. Don't become identified with the emotion. Allow yourself to feel the emotion, but then after that, redirect yourself to gaining the insights that are inside the emotions. You have another layer of emotions. Go ahead and select the strongest one of these emotions. You'll watch that your entire body shifts as you move from one emotion to another. Right now, what you're doing is you're releasing information, stagnant information in your body. So just this part right here is extremely healing. Okay, if you've gotten this far, it's amazing that you are able to do this. Okay, so go ahead and see that strong emotion that is still in your body now, and I want you to recognize this emotion. How familiar are you with this emotion that you feel? Okay, some of you might realize that you are in that emotion all the time. It comes up all the time. And see if you have information. Do you feel that emotion towards more the masculine or the male or the female, the feminine? So do you feel it more towards women or men, this emotion? Or neither? I'm not sure. Just observe. Go ahead and take yourself back to the very first time that you felt this emotion. The very first time. Take yourself back to that memory. Observe there. Sometimes the memory might be blurry, obscure. Focus on yourself and how you're feeling in that moment. Do not judge or apply meaning to what you're seeing. Just sit in your emotional body, feeling the sensations that come up as you connect to your former self that's experiencing this moment in the past. The more you observe, the more emotions will come up more clearly, more strongly. Notice all the different parts of your body that tense up as more emotions begin to come to the surface. This is usually where people want to get up and run away. I want to commend you for continuing to still be here. And just allow yourself to be compassionate during this time as you observe the emotions that come up. Try not to judge them. Try not to judge what is occurring in the memory. Try to focus fully on yourself in this moment. I want you to notice the role that you're playing in the participation of creation of this emotion. Notice the other's role that they're playing in triggering this emotion in you. What is it that you need from the other in order to not feel this way? If you could ask for anything and if you could receive anything from the other, what would you ask for? Go ahead and take a look at yourself now as you begin to observe yourself. What do you need from yourself in order to not contribute to this experience in this way? What do you need from yourself in order to no longer feel the way that you feel this way? In this moment, you might find some similarities, some similarities between your behaviors or your desires and the other's desires and their behaviors. Don't be shocked, don't be appalled. Some people might be very surprised to find similar intentions and similar fears, because what you're uncovering is your resonance. This is where you can begin to understand what your resonance is. This moment, allow yourself to begin to notice how this program has affected your entire life. As you begin to zoom out at all your fractals of yourself from the womb until now that have embodied this belief system, that have been repeating this program emotionally as a result of this one experience that you're revisiting. Just notice, how would you be different if you didn't have that belief system? If that wasn't part of your survival toolkit? What would change? What parts of you would be different? As we begin to observe these, take yourself further now to your ancestral lineage. How far down the ancestral lineage has this program been running? Where did you get this program from? Allow yourself to zoom as if you're zooming at the bigger picture of yourself, your life, your programs, and where you have received those programs from. Take a look at that. And as you observe this, you're going to notice why certain people have applied these programs in your lineage and why they haven't, and also why you apply these programs in your lineage, in your current lifetime, and why you haven't. Okay. So allow yourself to begin to observe these. I want you to gather all of your fractals of yourself from the past until now. What is it that you need in order to no longer continue to embody this program? What is the highest truth of this program? Ask yourself, is it true what you believe in? And if it's not true, then what is true? What is the truth? And as you answer this question, you want to include yourself in the embodiment of this circumstance. What is the most healthiest, most aligned with nature, most aligned with unconditional love and the collective truth, the most holistic truth when it comes to this? Allow yourself to observe that. Very good. So as you begin to observe this, I want you to notice what parts of you have to be let go, okay? And how many generations would have to let go of the survival mechanisms. Allow yourself to visualize a giant vacuum absorbing all of these parts of you. And as you visualize letting go of those heavy emotions from the past of holding on to this program, allow yourself to see, what do you need instead, okay? Allow yourself to bring from source this infinite potential, infusing every single one of your fractals with the awareness. As they become acknowledged, as they become seen, as they understand that they are the source of everything that they need or require or desire. As you allow all these parts of you to begin to dissolve, integrate into one self, see all of your ancestors. I want you to call forth your life force back into your body from all of these fractals of yourself. And I want you to visualize the planet Earth as you begin to see all the different ancestors in the parts of the world that are still holding on to these programs. As you inhale deeply, taking back your life force from these parts of you. Very good. Releasing. Allow yourself to see your own fractals of yourself now healed, shifted, changed, merging into one self in front of you. And as you begin to look at the amount of resistance that you felt to letting go of what you were letting go, do you still feel the same resistance? Take a look at that. What have you better understood now after observing these core beliefs behind our need to continue being attached or continue being in the state of survival? Very good. Go ahead and inhale deeply. Take back this integrated self back into your body. Go ahead and open the root chakra, the sacral, and the solar. I want you to spin them as fast as possible. Bring white source light, shine white source light on top of those chakras, clearing out all of these debris, these programs of fears, anxieties, all of these heavy past emotions that you just brought up in your body. Clear them, sending them down to the center of the earth. And go ahead and focus once again on the heart. Perfect. Go up into your throat, into your third eye, clearing the heart, the throat, and the third eye. Allow yourself to clear from all the chakra systems the heavy emotions that you were holding on to from the past. And go up into the crown as you begin to connect with your crown chakra. Notice the color that is here. You're going to enter that into the area of your career, abundance, love, consciousness, joy, harmony, success, money, co-creation, your sexual energy, creative life force, and finally, your purpose. Fill that in. Allow yourself to go back as you begin to activate the 9th, 10th, the 11th. Go ahead and shine that crown chakra on top of your room filled with your karmic contracts. Eliminate those karmic contracts completely. Fill that room with your creative color. Excellent. Go up into the 11th, the 12th, the 13th. Activate the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. And above you is a powerful white light of source. Go ahead and bring down that white light into your body. Anchor that white light down to the center of the earth as you see and open a channel of source into the body completely. And allow the pillar of white light from the center core of your body going around the perimeter of the earth. Excellent work. You're going to bring yourself back into the room. Go ahead and open your eyes. Wonderful. You guys did amazing as usual. I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for holding in there with me. We have about 300 people in the call right now, and I want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing with me. You guys are amazing. Let me go into the questions. I'm going to answer a few more questions. And yeah, so let's get started. Let's go up to, let's see, there was a question. Venusian says, when I had ET contact, it was cut short because my conscious mind kicked in. Is there something I can do? Is there something I can do to not have my conscious mind come in and kick me out of the experience, so to speak? Absolutely. So it really is, again, about the emotional body. The more that you regulate your nervous system, because what's happening, your mind is trying to survive in that moment. And so the first thing that the mind does is it goes to the filing cabinet to see what kind of judgment or meaning we need to apply to this circumstance in order to survive, right? To create the chemicals in the body that will either make you run away, fight, flight, or freeze, however you, depend on how you deal with trauma or fear, you will apply that response to what you're experiencing. So the key is, and I teach this a lot in my lucid dreaming class, to train yourself and your emotional body to come into as much neutrality as possible. So as I mentioned in today's class also, can you be in a state of harmony and peace in all situations, whether you're in front of a Draco, whether you are in the face of war, whether you're in the face of death, in the face of a loved one leaving, in your own internal wars that you have within you. Are you able to sustain harmony and peace no matter what happens in and out of the body, even at death? Okay, so this is the key, and this is what we're training. We are learning how to regulate ourselves, mind, body, and soul. That is the ultimately the integration of the three dimensions of the body. Okay, the Jing, the Shen, energy that we are integrating in the body are essentially what happens when you cultivate those. Is you bring harmony, complete harmony in the body. So what we can do is train your nervous system, regulate your nervous system, meditate a lot, build gray matter in the brain. This is another thing. You grow thick gray matter in the brain and the spine to become a higher conduit. You need to be a higher conduit because when you're entering into dimensions, you're entering into higher frequencies. So if you're in a high frequency when you leave your body, but then all of a sudden you go into the analytical mind, you immediately drop your frequency. Your body is polluted with certain emotions that drop your frequency. So that's why we want to regulate that nervous system. That's why we want to shift into this observer neutral state. So when that's the highest form of navigation of any dimension, okay? But you are also cultivating a higher frequency. So try to sustain your vibrational frequency as high as possible. So the kind of interaction that you have is also a match to you. Because remember that we encounter experiences based on a resonance. Okay, for those of you that ask, why am I having negative contact or why is it traumatic every time? It's totally based on your resonance, on your vibrational frequency, your subconscious core beliefs and what you're running. Okay, so that would be the best way. And then I also teach GPAC, grounding, protecting, aligning, co-creating. Try to sustain yourself in a state of your energy body being completely solid. Don't let any openings in your energetic body. We have openings because we have a lot of analytical mind and also depletion of thoughts and emotions through the body. Okay, so seal up your energetic body, regulate your nervous system. That's super mastery of your energetic navigation. Okay. Darina, great to see you. Inga, oh, I never thought this is so deep. Thank you so much for explaining, Geraldine. You're welcome. Shane says the squeaky wheel always gets oil. You have to ask. I'm not sure what that means. Luisa, God, this is so important. It's as simple and as complex as that. It can, yes, that's right. Just Michael, I'm listening. Be conscious. Okay, Liza says, what about sexual energy for women? Yeah, amazing question. So sexual energy for women is depleted through your menstruation cycle or through giving birth. Okay, so for women, actually, an orgasm, which can actually generate a lot of energy for the woman, a lot of creative life force energy when utilized properly, right? Not when you do it all the time. Then you can also deplete your life force. Also, when you're in a partnership and the exchanges are not even, or it's a toxic relationship, it doesn't matter if you orgasm or you enter that high state, you're going to be tired after that because it's about energy exchange for the woman and cultivating energy exchange more than anything else. Okay, so for the woman to clear up that energy from your menstruation cycle. So remember 30 days, right? So to use that energy and redirect it into creation, not just in creating a baby or a life, but into your manifestation of abundance, health, vitality, youth, regenerating the body. Okay. All of that recycling of that energy back into the creative cycle is essentially how the woman heals. And we use, and because, we, when we have the menstruation cycle, you use a lot of your energy is depleted. Minerals from the body, through the blood, obviously. The woman that has a lot of emotional imbalances will have a lot of hormonal imbalances. A woman that has a lot of sexual trauma will have a lot of hormonal imbalances, emotional imbalances, and then menstrual problems and complications, where she will deplete way too much of her menstruation, right? And then she will be sick. Sometimes we have blood problems. Okay. And so all of that are imbalances of the divine feminine that have to be healed and rebalanced. And so the woman needs to learn how to cultivate her emotions, create harmony in herself, so that she can use those 30 days to regenerate the body. And just like we have a cycle in the day, we have an entire organ clock where our organs are regenerating throughout the day. For the woman in the month, we are regenerating in different phases, right? We call them the lunar phases. And then depending on where you are menstruating, you are either in alignment with different things. If you menstruate on the moon, on the new moon, for example, you're creating something, you're tapping into your creative healing energies. If you're menstruating on the full moon, they call this the shaman moon, right? So you're deeply intuitively connected with yourself. And you're in alignment with higher natural laws, okay? Because full moons represent endings, right? So again, you are aligning yourself with the universe, the solar system, essentially, and the universe. So we want to learn to align our bodies back into the harmonious creation cycles of the universe. And there's much more to that too. But when it comes to pleasure, of course, your use of building that sexual energy up in your body, not just orgasming right away in intercourse, but redirecting that energy up into the body, can heal your body and your partner tremendously. I mean, it's very powerful healing abilities. So if you're dealing with an illness, you can use that sexual energy to heal your body, to rejuvenate. It's very powerful. So that's why selecting your partner is important, because if you have a partner that depletes their energy in any way, you become ill. Okay, you will have some kind of illness, and usually the illness will develop in the parts of your body, because chances are your ancestral lineage is repeating this same kind of selection of partner within their ancestral lineage for many generations. Okay, it goes very deep. Because again, nothing is just random. We choose our partners through resonance, and the world is self-organized in frequencies. So we don't have our neighbors just randomly. We don't run into people randomly. So anyway, that's just an overview. This is a very, very huge topic, but that's just to give you a little hint, okay? Shane says, so if you hadn't had sex in 10 years and you have a tank of energy out there just doing nothing. Okay, well, that's also death. Okay, so remember that when we're talking about energy, we're talking about flow. Again, energy doesn't disappear. Okay, and so depending on what you've done in those 10 years with your sexual energy, if you've depleted it, you're not really holding on to anything. So you haven't cultivated anything. But if you have been practicing these practices of alchemy and regenerating your sexual energy, then you're cultivating a lot of things. And that means that you're super intuitive, you're connected to your body, you're healthy, and you're able to manifest what you need in your life. Okay, so you haven't really cultivated your energy body, your sexual energy, if you are not doing these things. Okay, because not having sex is not the point. The point is utilizing that sexual energy in a masterful way of healing, regeneration, bringing more harmony, joy, and love into your life, right? So if you actually retain all of that for 10 years and you haven't done anything to use that energy, you can also get really ill. You can cause yourself cancers. You can have all kinds of complications in your body. So remember, anything that's stagnant dies. So we have to learn how to we are conduits of infinite potential. Okay, so anytime that you're not conducing, co-creating in some way intentionally, your intention is important. It's not enough to just do half-assed things. That doesn't exist in this universe, because we live in a universe of cause and effect. And the point of this is that you wake up consciousness in order to understand the consequences of your cause and the consequences of your effect. Okay, because without that, you are just the same thing. You're sleeping, you're not awake. So this would essentially what we want to do. Let me see, everything changed. She's sees you there. Hi, Geraldine. Can you please give us an example of reframing something like trigger warning, sexual trauma, abuse, and betrayal to shift the child's perspective and understanding? Still struggling. Yeah, I completely understand. This is one of the hardest parts, but it's one that is personal to me as well. This is why I can speak to this, is that I've also been able to overcome sexual trauma as a child. And it took a while because what happens is that we have to deconstruct all of our ideas, our religious beliefs, our beliefs about sex, our beliefs about shame, guilt, gender roles, our beliefs about parental roles and the roles that we give societal figures. A lot has to shift for this reframing to take place. It's not just that you're going to change the way that you see the person that did this to you. Because in order for you to shift from the victim of the abuse, especially in sexual abuse, you would have to be able to see the person that caused the abuse as a human themselves, and to be able to see the cause and effect that caused them to want to do the abuse towards someone else. And what we fail to see in our society, and because of the judicial system and the way that we see crime, the way that we have religion, which is completely, it's a hypocrisy really, because even in religious groups there's tremendous amount of sexual abuse going on, where you manipulate the idea of sex, make it taboo, and that causes a complete darkness for humanity in general to understand their sexual nature as something, as a natural part of them. So that shame and guilt creates tremendous amount of confusion for humans. They don't know what to do with their sexual energy. They don't know what's right. They don't know what's wrong. And therefore, in all of that confusion, behave in an instinctive manner like an animal without any awareness. Okay. And so all of that is based on survival mechanisms for them to survive. And what happens, especially with sexual trauma, is that when we incur sexual trauma, a couple things can happen. Usually, the person will want to reenact the trauma because in that time of receiving the sexual trauma, they didn't know how to respond to what's happening. And then there's a tremendous conflict ethically for them, because sometimes the body organically will feel pleasure, and as soon as they start to feel pleasure, they start to feel shame within themselves. They're confused. They know inherently that this is wrong, based on the roles that were presented to this human. And then on top of that, there's a layer of where, part of them might feel biologically something is happening. And when the child doesn't know what's happening, this creates major confusion. So these are some layers that we have to go under, where essentially we need to be able to see, first of all, we need to make sense about our own understanding of sex, of our own. We need to be able to overcome the shame that we feel about our own desires, understand that natural nature of our sexuality, what happens biologically when we're stimulated in any way, and the nature of that, because that will help invert the shame and guilt that is felt in that circumstance. Okay, not taking it as something emotional, because then there's this inversion of emotional attachment to the person that caused the abuse. Secondly, the person that caused the abuse, we need to be able to see them as this person and why they are behaving in that way. And let me just give you a quick example. When I was looking at my experience, I had to really be able to pull myself out of myself in that moment to be able to have an overview of the other and to observe the other and why the other was behaving in that way. And what I discovered, putting myself in their shoes. Okay, this is hard, I understand. So putting yourself in their shoes, you begin to understand the emotions that they feel. And most children will pick up that emotion as a child, because children are very intuitive. Profound sense of guilt and shame that the perpetrator is feeling. Underneath, anger, fear, confusion, disconnect. Okay, so they themselves are a victim of their own confusion. The exact same emotions that the child is creating in the moment of being abused is what this adult or other person, perpetrator, is existing in. And they're trapped and they keep repeating that loop, which is why they do the abuse to begin with. The body wants to recreate the trauma over and over again until they understand it, okay, in a way. Of course, they're not doing any work to understand it, but they enact it out, okay? And that's something that happens for people that have trauma. It's not even just with sexual abuse, it's also with physical abuse. So for example, violence, okay? So the violence that the child is receiving, for example, they will want to enact that violence on someone else. They have absorbed all the anger and emotions of the parent or whoever is creating, and they enact that into the other person that they do that to. So this is how we perpetrate these cycles of abuse constantly. But for this human, they would have to understand the separation between the emotions that they took on from the perpetrator and their own emotions. They have to get very clear about that. And they have to be able to overcome the shame of any of the concepts of sex, pleasure, and the and so it's inverted the concepts of pleasure. This is oftentimes why people end up with fetishes as a result of these kinds of sexual abuse. Okay, so all of that has to be revisited, and you have to get completely to your most raw, authentic self about your belief systems around that in order to heal. And so this will cause you to really come out of your comfort zone in order for you to be able to see that and have compassion of yourself, absolute compassion of yourself, understanding that it's not your fault what happened to you, number one, because we completely feel guilty because of what happened. Okay, and then we get confused about identity. Okay, for women, they become overly sexual. For men, they can also become overly sexual, pursuing the female, or they can be completely constructed in their sexual energy, and then they revert to fetishes or their own self-destruction in some way. Okay, the same for men and women. So all of these, as a result of that abuse, can really cause deep psychological conflict. So we need to shift out of that to have a broader perspective. And what that will allow us to do is to have compassion and have compassion over the perpetrator for their condition. Okay. So remember that forgiveness is not about the other individual, because unfortunately, what needs to happen is that that individual needs to get help. They need psychological help. They need to heal that wound. And in our society, we don't support that. This is a major flaw in our society, that we don't have regenerative and support for crimes, violence, and these kinds of crimes. You know, we just put them in jail, you know, or we toss them out, and then they keep doing the same thing. But these people need to be rehabilitated, like me and you. We are rehabilitating ourselves. Okay, so that kind of reframing, in order for you to understand these cycles, will liberate you and heal you from this. Okay, second part, we have to do sexual clearing and healing. Okay, so we have to clear out all the sexual energy that you took on from that experience, and then the sexual energy that you took on from either you recreating that trauma with other partners, or the stagnation of your own sexual energy that was abused from then. You have to clear that out of the body energetically. So emotionally, energetically, and you have to forgive yourself deeply to be able to free yourself from guilt or shame from what happened. That's how you heal that. So I could really talk about this a little bit more. There's so much more to this, but I'll leave it there. Please let me know if you still have questions. I hope that helped. I hope that helped a little bit. I know that it's a hard topic. It deserves an entire hour. Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm so glad that you guys had some help from that. Let me see any question. Taylor Brown says, even if we don't know how to do GPAC, does setting the intention help to make a difference? Setting the intention of what, my love? Taylor, can you clarify that for me? So really quickly, GPAC is grounding, protecting, aligning, co-creating. We are literally just using the technology of our bodies in order to master our energetic navigation, okay? Our etheric navigation in waking state and dream state. So in other words, grounding means connect to in your body, emotions, mind, body, emotions, the three dantians connecting with your awareness, and then rooted into the earth. Okay, so you're connected with nature. You're connecting with nature. Um, Aligning means your chakras. You know how to open and you know how to control your chakras, opening and closing, which means that you know how to control your perception, which means that you know how to control your emotions. Okay. Um, Protection, sorry, I skipped protection. You're owning your space. You understand that this is what everything inside of this bubble is you. You can control this, right? Everything outside and what happens to you, outside of you, you cannot control. So you have absolute mastery over this physical body. And you understand that trauma and abuse and things that have happened to us, we are not the abuse. The emotions are the abuse that we continue to play, and actually we abuse ourselves with the experiences that we have. So we have to make sense of these past experiences to release whatever we are repeating in the body. Okay. And finally, C, which is co-creation. Your crown, seventh and eighth, you're manifesting intentionally. Your projection into reality is not a product of past trauma, past conditioning. It's a projection of you in this present moment, transmuting and conducing all of this into creation intentionally. Okay, so intention is important, but we have to deprogram false belief systems in order to get clear intention. Okay. Yeah, Liza says, what happens when you've had a partial hysterectomy? Yeah, so hysterectomy, unfortunately, is something that's become very common in our society. I think that it's very unfortunate because there's a lack of understanding that organs are holographic, which means that they're deeply interconnected with the entire organism. Okay, so when there's a hysterectomy, there's a part of that organ that's removed, but it doesn't mean that the functions of that are still not there. Okay, so what we need to do is regenerate the hologram of that organ in the body so that we can rebalance the imbalances that are happening. Okay, and we have to cultivate and rebalance because the organs are connected with emotions, the organs are connected with hormones, the organs are connected with biochemical parts of us. So we need to look at where we have gone out of balance after that hysterectomy, or even before that, obviously, generations. And we have to heal that in order to heal the imbalance that's happened in the body. Okay, so that would be how we can do that. All right. Marie has said, if I had a stomach flu and did your meditation, really helped. Is flu always a sign of law of accident? Flu, in my experience, is a law of, no, flu is a result of lack of self-love, um, lack of worthiness of the self, feeling helpless and not directing that love towards the self. So how do you heal a flu? Is that you put love into your body, you fix your programs about unworthiness, and that you redirect love into the body, especially into the organs like the lungs and the heart, that you begin to infuse yourself with so much love. Anytime that you start to feel unworthy, unloved, not lovable, all of those kinds of programs in the chest and the lungs, where we are, let me see if I can find that. I had a really great chart, but I always share this chart with you guys about the organs. And yeah, so I don't have it here on this, but they represent dreams and memories. So letting go of the past, inability to to love, any blockages around love. I'll simplify it there. But definitely check out that chart that I share every time about the elements and the organs, because the lung is metal. Okay, so take a look at the relationship between that and your belief systems and how those have been shifted in the past week. Usually this is why you have a flu, and you have to, if you have been doing a lot of self-betraying acts and acts in which you don't value your worth over and over again, and these are self-hating acts, we're going to feel this unworthiness. So change that, and it should heal very quickly. Also, Qigong, do Qigong. Silban says, well, I never thought about it in terms of taking on the abuser's feelings. Makes so much sense. Yes, just the way we take our mother's emotions in the womb, we take our abuser's emotions into us. And actually, the sad part is that actually our entire life ends up being based on that emotion that we took on from the abuser. An example, shame. Okay, the shame that the other person felt. We lived an entire life of shame. We didn't pursue partners. We didn't go after our dreams. We didn't love fully. We were afraid of love. Okay, so things like that. Or in violence, we're afraid of intimacy. We're afraid of connection. We're afraid of trusting. So your entire life is based on the emotions that you take on from the abuser. It's a pretty big thing. She sees you there. I see. Bless you, Geraldine. Thanks for your compassion and your wisdom. That's tremendous help. Compassion for them already. Finally, thank you. I'm so glad. Thank you so much, guys. Love you so much. Have an amazing week, and I will see you soon. And join me tomorrow. I am presenting at 11:30. I believe it's 11:30 or 12:30. I'll put the schedule down below, but Portal to Ascension, Ultimate Star Beings Conference, I'm going to be talking about interdimensional contact and consciousness. So definitely check that out, and I will see you there. Much love, everybody. Take care. Bye. Thank you so much for the super chats, guys. It helps me a lot.